Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I want to talk about something that happened last week during a press conference and a statement made by a major general from the Space Force. And I think it's really, really interesting and very telling, actually. In fact, what basically I got out of this is basically the United States is sharing UAP data with China and Russia, among other countries, but it was basically admitted during this press conference that the United States shares UAP information with other countries, including China and Russia. So I guess there's all this nonsense that we've been hearing that all these years now, that these unidentified objects might be Chinese or Russian technology. I guess they're not. I guess they're not now, because according to the things that happened during this press conference, this Major General John Olson, this mobilization assistant to the chief of space operations for the United States Space Force, basically said that we're sharing information on UAP. So I guess my question is, if we're sharing information on UAP with other countries, including Russia and China, then that, I guess, eliminates them as behind some of these UAP that we're talking about, right? These unidentified objects that everyone's wondering where they're coming from. They always say it could be Chinese or Russia, right? And then at the end of the sentence they'll say or other. They don't want to talk about other, right? But here, I mean, this is basically an admission. Anyway, there was somebody, actually. This is a New York Foreign Press Center, right? There was different people, different representatives from other countries asking questions to this Major General John Olson. And one of the people that asked the question was a reporter from Sputnik News out of Russia, asking about UAP. And I'll play the footage, all the footage from this press conference where this Major General John Olson talked about UAP. But what I thought was the most interesting aspect of it was when this Sputnik News Russia reporter asked a question about UAP and also about cooperating with other countries. And what it sounded like to me was that they already are, that they share information, that they're sharing information with other countries, including China and Russia. So again, if that's the case, then that means, then what are we talking about all the time with this? It could be Chinese or Russia. I mean, obviously, the United States is not going to share something with China or Russia and say that they think, that the United States thinks is Chinese or Russian objects, right? They're not going to share. Why would they share that? I'm trying to understand. I don't understand. I guess I'm at a loss after this. I mean, it's. Some of the things that were said during this, where he talked about that UFOs are seen on a global scale. Well, that's something we know. We've known this since the 1940s. I mean, this isn't news. However, the part about sharing UAP information with other countries, including China and Russia, right? That's pretty eye opening, I would think, right? I mean, that's what he said. And I'll play the. First I'm going to play the first segment. We'll go through the first segment of what he said when he was asked about UFOs, and then we'll play the second segment where he talked about, where he answered the question to the Russian journalist for Sputnik News, where he talked about sharing this information.
Major General Olson, what do you think about the unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and UFOs?
Well, this is a very hot topic, and I appreciate the question. I know, admittedly, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force is quite a mouthful in an acronym. I've gotten that question a couple other times. What do you think about UFOs or aliens? And quite frankly, having flown 83 different airplanes and had lots of hours, we've all seen lots of unexplainable elements. And the cosmos, the space realm is so large. If we look at the Earth, it is this tiny blue dot in an unlimited, almost incomprehensibly large cosmos. I personally believe that there absolutely, from a probability perspective, is life out there. However, this task force is a very serious U.S. government approach to systematically investigating and understanding these because, of course, unidentified elements present a national security concern, present a safety of flight, present a risk that we must take and diligently pursue. But I think the question is actually more broadly put, and that is we will continue this effort, and in fact, I believe it will be getting more funding and more of a structural support level within the department. But I also believe that this is part of our never-ending quest to learn and understand and explore. And as we have on our probes that have exited the solar system to our probes to the moon, we have gone in peace to explore and discover, and we continue that yearning to see and discover, is there life out there, and what does that mean for humanity?
Awesome. This is Ethan Holmes with Sputnik News, Russia. Off of UAPs, is there any cooperation with allies or partners on the UAP question and probe? Thank you very much.
Was related to UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomenon, and that UAP task force. And as far as I'm concerned, or am knowledgeable about that, I do believe it does involve collaborative inputs and information exchange with all kinds of countries around the globe, because I think these are not just solely actions or events that have occurred within the confines of the United States. They've occurred globally, and I think we're collecting that information. We're sharing information. We view that as an open and transparent effort and activity through the United States Congress and executed by our UAP Task Force Office. And so I would encourage greater collaboration and cooperation in that. And particularly, I think as we see various technologies that will help demystify or debunk or clarify. But I think it's also important. One of the reasons that we are doing this effort is because national security concerns are of paramount importance, and so is safety of flight and deconfliction and collision avoidance and issues to preserve and protect human life. So when we can better share and exchange information, I think that's better. Much like we do in the International Civil Aviation Organization, or otherwise known as ICAO, or in any other international bodies as well. I think there's a fertile and important opportunity to be pursued there.
Okay, there you have it. So there you have it. So that was pretty much the context of what General John Olson talked about. Basically, with the United States, and I'm assuming Russia and China, they're sharing their stuff with us too. I mean, if there's a collaborative effort ongoing, or he's actually asking for more collaboration, but he's asking for more collaboration. But that means, though, that he also indicated that there is some collaboration actually going on right now. So that means we are sharing this information with other countries. So when I guess I'm confused now when, we're being told that, well, some of these objects that we can't explain could be Chinese or Russian technology, which I think was all nonsense. A lot of us know that. People with brains in their head, like I have a brain, there's a brain behind this, forehead. There's a brain in there, right? And other people who have brains behind their forehead, right? They understood that this was all nonsense. People who've seen UFOs, people who've researched this subject, people who know that there's an extraterrestrial reality here. We have brains inside our skulls that allow us to use critical thinking skills and come up with there's when they say Chinese and Russia, that's just a red herring. That's nonsense. They're just making that up. And obviously now we know based on these comments that you just heard, they're making it up. Because if we're sharing information with these people, well, what are we sharing? We're going to share video of the Chinese spy balloon, or what do we share? Obviously the only thing we would share with them are objects that we are completely anomalous, right? Well, I would imagine that's the only thing that would make sense. Things that we know that aren't ours, that couldn't be man-made, right? We're not going to share anything else, I wouldn't think, right? Why would we? So there's obviously some sort of something going on behind the scenes that none of us are aware of. And it makes me wonder also, there's a lot of things I wonder about with regard to this. But we'll get into that. We'll get into it. But there was an article about this that appeared in Liberation Times, which is a really good online source for UFO stories. Christopher Sharp, really good reporter. He's on top of this stuff all the time, and he put an article together on this. And we're going to go through some of the article. It says here, senior Space Force official acknowledges global presence of UFOs and underlines importance of international collaboration. Well, again, it's more than just an importance of international collaboration. From what I get out of these comments, what I culled out of these comments is more than just collaboration. It's like we already are collaborating, is from what I understand out of these comments. Anyway, continuing here, it says, speaking about unidentified anomalous phenomena, a senior Space Force official has acknowledged that UAP are detected globally and admitted, quite frankly, having flown 83 different airplanes and had lots of hours, we've all seen lots of unexplainable elements. And of course, I just played that in the video, and you heard him say that. So yeah, he's saying that they have flown 83. He's flown 83 different airplanes and had lots of hours, and he's seen, and we've all has seen lots of unexplainable elements. So this guy here is admitting that he's seen these kind of things too. Continuing here, it says, talking to the New York Foreign Press Center around 14 April, Major General John Olson, Mobilization Assistant to the Chief of Space Operations for the U.S. Space Force, added that more international cooperation and collaboration with other countries was needed, stating, I do believe it does involve collaborative inputs and information exchange with all kinds of countries around the globe, because I think these are not just solely actions or events that occur within the confines of the United States. Of course, that was what he was saying, what we just heard. But the thing is, he also stated that there is something, they are sharing information. He stated that clearly. We're going to skip through this because a lot of this is redundant. He says here, yeah, we view that an open and transparent effort and activity through the United States Congress and executed by our UAP Task Force Office, and so I would encourage greater collaboration and cooperation in that. And particularly, I think, as we see various technologies that will help demystify or debunk or clarify, we're sharing information. That's the big sentence out of this. We are sharing information. So we are sharing information with China and Russia. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and try to unpack the rest of this. Okay, we are back. Now, again, I just want to point out again that Olson has stated that the United States is sharing information with other countries, and we're sharing it with China and Russia. I'd like to know what this information, what information are we sharing exactly? I mean, let's think about this. For one thing, we get a lot of reports. Like there's things like the Black Vault. John Greenwald at the Black Vault always filing these Freedom of Information Act requests. And then finally, after years of waiting, he'll get a whole bunch of documents, but all the information about the sightings is completely blacked out. So the United States people aren't getting to look at this. But hey, we're sharing it with other countries, including China and Russia. Is that what's going on here? I mean, I'm just asking. Continuing with this article, it says, notably, Olson suggested that such cooperation and collaboration needed was comparable to the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization, an effort funded and directed by 193 national governments, including China, to support their diplomacy and cooperation in air transport. Olson stated, so when we can better share and exchange information, I think that's better, much like we do in the International Civil Aviation Organization, or otherwise known as ICAO, or in any other international bodies as well. I think there's a fertile and important opportunity to be pursued there. And then he goes on to talk about Project Titan. This says here, this comes following the approval of Project Titan by San Marino, meaning the nation will submit a proposal to the United Nations for the creation of a permanent office tasked with the preparation of periodic global conferences dedicated to the scientific study of UAP. The creator and manager of Project Titan, Paulo Guzzardi, spoke to Liberation Times and personally welcomed Olson's comments, stating, on a personal level, I welcome General Olson's statements on the UAP phenomenon. I remark with pleasure that at last the UAP phenomenon is not only being taken seriously, but that a concrete awareness of its global nature is becoming apparent. While on a more general level, I fully agree that only through an international effort can we succeed in shedding light on the enduring mystery of the UAP phenomenon and mitigate its potential risks and threats. But international is not the only keyword in this business. Many research efforts to date have been carried out by individual nations, mainly on a military or intelligence basis. None of these has advanced our understanding of the phenomenon. The time has come for the realization that the phenomenon is not only global in nature, but also that it is multifaceted. It affects global security as well as that of individual states and the safety of air navigation. It affects human health. It has potentialities that could have enormous relevance and create huge social repercussions affecting the entire human civilization. The research effort that is necessary is therefore not only international but also open and multidisciplinary. I believe that the only way to implement such a wide spectrum international effort is under the auspices of the United Nations. This is exactly what Project Titan is about. ICER and CUN have proposed it officially to the Republic of San Marino, whose parliament has accepted with a vast majority vote. If it will be accepted by the United Nations, it will lay the basis for this much needed international and multidisciplinary effort. Now, let me just stop there for a second. I think there's already agreements behind the scenes. I mean, maybe the Republic of San Marino is not part of those secret agreements. I think there are some agreements between some countries secretly that nobody in the world knows. There's no public information about. I already believe that, and that's maybe why a country like San Marino wants to do this, something like this. This interests them because they think it needs to be talked about internationally. But I think it's already being talked about internationally. I think there are definitely certain agreements and already in place. But hey, I guess it wouldn't hurt to have something else, right? Anyway, continuing with this, it says, to date, this is the most candid any member of the Space Force has discussed UAP since the establishment of the military branch in 2019. This is, again, talking about this general. It says, in 2021, it was reported that Pentagon officials were considering giving the Space Force a greater role in a stepped-up effort to track and investigate reports of UAP. But at that time, officials from the Space Force felt such an effort could deepen its public relations challenge after experiencing ridicule following its establishment. Yeah, why was there ridicule? Why was there ridicule after Space Force was established? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I remember there was some ridicule after Space Force was established. Why? You saw a lot of the late night comedians making fun of it. Space Force, like it's something that sounds science fiction-y, but hey, we're advancing. We're actually traveling in space. We've been traveling in space. We should have a Space Force. Anyway, continuing, says, however, Olson's comments could signal a shift in the Space Force's public stance regarding the UAP issue. Well, let me just stop there for a second. I think his comments might change a little bit more than that. I mean, the fact that he's admitted that we are already sharing information about UAP. The United States government is sharing information about UAP with other countries, including enemy countries like China and Russia. So again, I guess that eliminates these. When everyone says, "Oh, these objects that we're seeing, these objects that are performing incredible acrobatics in the sky, traveling at 10, 15,000, 20,000 miles per hour, right? These objects that that seem to defy physics. Some people try to say that, well, it could be China or Russia. No, now we know it's not China or Russia. I've always known that. But now this basically, what this press conference, what was stated at this press conference should just dispel all of that now. Continuing with this article. It says, after NASA's own UAP study announcement and the shoot-downs of unknown objects over North American skies in February, the topic has been subject to less ridicule and is now taken significantly more seriously in Washington, D.C. Again, though, the objects that were shot down over North American skies in February, they're not what we're talking about here. They're not what we're talking about. They're not. They're just not. I mean, even people in the UFO community needs to understand those objects are nothing. They weren't extraterrestrial. Whatever they were, they weren't extraterrestrial. Whatever they were human made. One of them we know was a Chinese spy balloon. They won't tell us what the other things were. They're probably too embarrassed to tell us what they were. I mean, that's my guess. But they're not. There's nothing to worry about. Anyway, continuing. As a result, the White House has formed a UAP interagency team to address the issue. Speaking about the risks UAP pose, Olson told reporters, and this is again taken from what we just talked about, unidentified elements present a national security concern, present a safety of flight safety of flight present a risk that we must take and diligently pursue. Which is true. I mean, these objects sometimes pose risks. I mean, we might crash into one sometimes, and obviously sometimes these things do crash themselves. As reported by Liberation Times in August 2022, the Department of Defense confirmed that Lou Elizondo, former director of the Pentagon's previous UAP program, known as ATIP, was advising the Space Force on classified topics. At the time, Elizondo commented on the Space Force's approach to the topic, stating that the men and women of U.S. Space Force are some of the most capable and patriotic individuals I know, and let it be known to all that may ask, they are taking the topic of UAP very seriously and should be commended for their efforts. I am truly blessed to be a part of such an amazing group of individuals. Well, it's nice to know that someone who is very interested in UAP and who knows they're very important, right? Like Lou Elizondo is, there, with working with Space Force. That's nice to know. Liberation Times understands that the apparent shift from Space Force could be due to the involvement of Lou Elizondo and other individuals working within the military branch who are taking the topic very seriously. Of course, I'm sure that Elizondo has had an impact. And continuing here, it says, when discussing the ongoing efforts to investigate UAP by the Department of Defense, Olson expressed optimism despite budgetary concerns within Congress regarding the U.S. government's current UAP office, referred to as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW. Said Olson, but I think the question is actually more broadly put, and that is we will continue this effort, and in fact, I believe it will be getting more funding and more of a structural support level within the department. Again, I just want to stop here. Whenever I hear about money in these offices, it's really a shame because we know, I don't know a lot of people. I'm going to do a separate podcast on this soon, but the Pentagon has failed 5 straight audits over, 66% of their assets you can't account for. I mean, we're talking billions upon billions of dollars over the last 5 years can't be accounted for, right? So where do you think this money is going? It's going into black budget programs. See, a lot of money is already being spent on this stuff, but we can't even spend a little bit. Like we're having trouble, it seems, spending a little bit on these offices like Arrow and things like that. Like Arrow's not even funded enough. I mean, it's ridiculous. But yet we have these black budget programs where all this money is getting funneled somewhere, obviously to the weapons manufacturers secretly, right? Who are doing God knows what with it. What are they doing? Reverse engineering, trying to build their own flying saucers. Who knows how the money's being spent? We don't really know. But again, I mean, it's unfortunate that some of these offices, these public offices like Arrow, the congressional office like Arrow, isn't being funded enough. But yet, the Pentagon can't account for all these billions of dollars over the past 5 years, and in fact has failed 5 straight audits. Continuing. Moving on from technicalities, Olson also spoke more philosophically about the implications of the topic and finding other forms of life. And I thought this was an interesting comment. Of course, I'm repeating what he said in that video. He says, but I also believe that this is part of our never-ending quest to learn and understand and explore. And as we have on our probes that have exited the solar system to our probes to the moon, we have gone in peace to explore and discover. And we continue that yearning to see and discover if there's life out there and what does that mean for humanity. That was a very nice comment that he made. It seems like this guy, Olson, seems like a really good person to be in Space Force. And I think he might have slipped a little bit, unless, I don't know, to make the statement that they're sharing this information with China and Russia. Was he supposed to say that? I mean, is this part of the slow disclosure routine, or I just slowly tear that Band-Aid off one arm hair at a time? Is that what's going on here? I don't know. Why not just pull it off in one fell swoop? Just rip it off. Get the pain over with. Why just a little bit at a time? And then this article wraps up with this. It says, Liberation Times understands that major developments are occurring behind the scenes regarding UAP. It is understood that following the announcement of a public Senate hearing by the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee on 19 April, others could follow. It is also expected by sources that some public officials may shift their public stance on the topic in the coming months in anticipation of new revelations. We've been hearing this a lot. There's going to be new revelations. New revelations are coming down the road. Of course, I've been a pessimist, but I'm really hoping I'm wrong about this. I'm really, I know, I'm right about a lot of things that I talk about on here. Right? I know I'm right. I know that, right? But there are some things I really hope I'm wrong about. I hope my pessimism about 2023 just being another repeat of 2022 is wrong. I really do. But yeah, I think it's very interesting what's going on here, and I just want to point out, I guess the whole purpose of this podcast is to point out the fact that we're already, I mean, I guess it's a big deal, isn't it? I mean, if we're already sharing UAP data with China and Russia, then why are we at the same time saying that these objects that we can't account for might be Chinese or Russian? I mean, I'm trying to figure that one out. Like, that's like, I don't know, I feel like it's an oxymoron, or, if we're going in circles here. It's like circular logic. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid, actually. So if we're sharing things, I think anything that we would share with any other country would be out of concern that, hey, we just want to make sure that this isn't ours, right? That's not yours, is it? Right? There's no way. Because, I mean, we're not going to share something that, that we wouldn't want to show our hand, right? So obviously there's a concern amongst leaders of the world on this. There has to be. It has to be going on for decades, right? There has to be. I mean, a lot of people in the UFO community, a lot of people who research this already know that there has to be some sort of understanding, right? And basically what you're seeing here is basically an admission by somebody high up, somebody in Space Force, a major general in the Space Force, admitting that, yeah, we already share stuff with these guys. Okay, we're already sharing stuff. Then what are we talking about then? So obviously, whatever they're sharing, right? They don't know what they are, and they're pretty certain. I can assure you this, right? Whatever they're sharing, they're probably pretty certain that they're not of this earth, right? That's what I'm certain. I'm certain of that. They're pretty certain. Whatever they're sharing with Russia and China and all these other countries, the United States is pretty certain that these things are not of Earth, right? And I'm sure that whatever Russia and China is sharing with us they're pretty certain of the same fact. Anyway, until next time.